The courtroom doors burst open, and a hush gripped the crowd as 7-year-old Lily Harper, eyes wide with fear, clutched the leash of Max, a scarred golden retriever. Every gaze locked on them, except Thomas Reed's, the accused predator, who smirked, certain a mute child couldn't touch him. But when Lily's trembling hand signaled, Max's growl shattered the silence, his eyes boring into Reed, exposing a truth no one expected. Why did this dog know him? What secret did he sense? The judge's gavel froze midair and whispers erupted. This wasn't just a trial, it was a reckoning. Dive into this gripping tale of courage and instinct. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heart-pounding stories that unravel mysteries and celebrate unbreakable bonds. Don't miss the next twist. Hit that bell and join the journey. The courtroom was a cavern of silence, the kind that pressed against your chest and made every breath feel stolen. Heavy wooden doors creaked open, and Lily Harper, a 7-year-old with wide brown eyes and a braid swinging nervously behind her, stepped through. Her small hand gripped the leash of Max, a golden retriever whose golden fur was marred by a jagged scar running down his right flank, a battle wound from his days as a police dog. Every head turned, eyes tracing the girl and her protector as they moved toward the witness stand. Lily's steps were cautious but resolute, her sneakers squeaking faintly on the polished floor. Max padded beside her, his ears pricked, his gaze steady, as if he understood the weight of the moment. Judge Helen Carver, a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and a gaze sharp enough to cut through lies, leaned forward in her high-backed chair. Her years on the bench had taught her to read people, but today, her focus was on a child. Lily was the linchpin in a case that could lock away Thomas Reed, a 38-year-old construction engineer accused of attempting to abduct her. The problem, Lily hadn't spoken a word since that terrifying day in the park. Her silence was a wall, and the entire case teetered on whether she could breach it. At the defense table, Thomas Reed sat with an eerie calm, his clean-shaven face and neatly pressed suit giving him the look of a man who belonged in a boardroom, not a courtroom. His dark eyes flicked toward Lily, then to Max, and a faint smirk tugged at his lips. Beside him, his attorney, Daniel Price, adjusted his tie, exuding confidence. No physical evidence, no confession, and a mute witness, Price had whispered to Reed earlier that morning. This case is ours to lose. The gallery was packed, journalists scribbling notes, families clutching tissues, and legal observers whispering theories. Lily's mother, Ellen Harper, sat in the front row, her hands twisting a scarf into knots. Beside her, Clara, Lily's 15-year-old sister, chewed her lip, her eyes never leaving her little sister. "She's braver than all of us," Clara murmured, her voice barely audible. "All rise," the bailiff's voice boomed, snapping the room to attention as Judge Carver settled into her seat. She scanned the room, her expression unreadable, then nodded. "Be seated, we'll begin with preliminary matters." Sarah Nguyen, the lead prosecutor, stood, her posture rigid but her voice warm. "Your Honor, before we proceed, I'd like to address the presence of the therapy dog, Max. He's critical to Lily Harper's ability to testify, given her diagnosis of selective mutism." Daniel Price was on his feet in an instant, his tone smooth but edged with disdain. "Your Honor, with all due respect, a golden retriever in a courtroom is a theatrical stunt. The dog's presence risks swaying the jury emotionally, prejudicing them against my client. We request Max be removed." Judge Carver's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Price, are you suggesting a child's medical needs should be dismissed for your client's comfort?" Price didn't flinch. "I'm suggesting fairness, Your Honor. A large dog growling or reacting could paint Mr. Reed as a threat before evidence is even presented." Sarah Nguyen countered, her voice rising slightly. "Max is a certified therapy animal, trained to support trauma survivors. Lily's psychologist has documented his necessity. Removing him would be like denying a wheelchair to someone who can't walk." The room buzzed with murmurs. Ellen leaned forward, whispering to Clara, "They can't take Max away from her, can they?" Clara shook her head, her voice fierce. "They better not. Lily needs him." Judge Carver raised a hand, silencing the room. I've reviewed the documentation from Dr. Larson and the child psychologist. Max stays. Any further objections, Mr. Price? Price's jaw tightened, but he sat down, shooting a glance at Reed, who remained unnervingly still, his fingers tapping a slow rhythm on the table. As Lily reached the witness stand, the clerk helped her into the oversized chair. She looked small, almost swallowed by the wood and leather, but her grip on Max's leash was unwavering. Max sat at her feet, his warm brown eyes scanning the room before settling on Reed. The dog's tail was still, his muscles taut, as if sensing something no one else could. Sarah Nguyen approached, her smile gentle. "Hi, Lily. I know this is a big room, but you're doing great. If you need a break, just let me know, okay?" Lily didn't respond, her eyes fixed on the table, but she gave a tiny nod. Ellen's breath caught, and she squeezed Claire's hand. "She's trying so hard," Ellen whispered. Clara nodded, her voice thick. "She's got Max. She'll be okay." Sarah continued, her tone soft but deliberate. "Lily, can you tell us if you recognize anyone in this room from the day in the park?" Lily's fingers tightened around the leash, her knuckles whitening. Her eyes flickered upward, meeting Reed's for a split second. Then, in a movement so subtle it might have gone unnoticed, her free hand twitched, a small, deliberate signal she'd learned in therapy. Max's reaction was instantaneous. His ears snapped forward, his body went rigid, and a low, guttural growl rumbled from his chest. His eyes locked onto Reed, unblinking, the fur along his back bristling. The courtroom erupted in gasps. A journalist dropped her pen, the clatter echoing. Reed's smirk vanished, replaced by a flash of something. Fear? Recognition. He shifted in his seat, his fingers freezing mid-tap. "Order." Judge Carver's gavel cracked like thunder. Her eyes darted from Max to Lily, then to Reed. "Ms. Nguyen, control the animal." Sarah hesitated, glancing at Max, who hadn't moved but continued to stare at Reed. "Your Honor, Max is responding to something. This wasn't planned." Price stood, his voice sharp. "This is exactly what I warned about. The dog's creating a spectacle, biasing the jury." "Sit down, Mr. Price," Carver snapped, her tone leaving no room for argument. She leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "Ms. Nguyen, has this dog had any prior contact with the defendant?" Sarah shook her head. "Not to my knowledge, Your Honor." Carver's eyes flicked to Reed. "Mr. Reed, have you ever encountered this animal before?" Reed's composure faltered, his hands clenching into fists. "No," he said, his voice clipped, but his eyes darted to Max, betraying a flicker of unease. Clara whispered to Ellen, "He's lying. Max knows something." Ellen nodded, her heart pounding. "But what?" Judge Carver sat back, her mind racing. In her 20 years on the bench, she'd seen every kind of witness, but never a dog reacting with such certainty. She glanced at Lily, who was now clutching Max's fur, her small frame trembling. Something had just shifted in this case, something no one had anticipated. "Your Honor," Sarah said, her voice urgent, "I request a brief recess. We need to consult with our investigator about this development." Price objected, his patience fraying. "This is a delay tactic. The prosecution is grasping at straws." Carver held up a hand. "Enough. Court will recess for 20 minutes. Her gavel struck again, and the room buzzed as people filed out, whispering theories. Ellen rushed to Lily, kneeling beside her. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Ellen asked, smoothing Lily's braid. Lily didn't speak, but she buried her face in Max's fur, her small hands gripping him tightly. Clara crouched next to them, her voice soft but fierce. "You were so brave, Lily. Max has your back, and so do I." Outside the courtroom, Kate Monroe, the FBI agent leading the investigation, caught Sarah's arm. "That wasn't just a random reaction," Kate said, her voice low. "Max recognized something, maybe a scent, maybe Reed himself. We need to dig deeper." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. "Start with Reed's vehicle. If Max is reacting like this, there's something we've missed." As the recess ticked by, Judge Carver remained at her bench, her fingers steepled. She didn't believe in coincidences, and Max's growl was no accident. Somewhere in that dog's instincts lay a truth that could unravel everything. The question was, could they find it before Reed slipped through their fingers? The spring afternoon was soft and golden, the kind that wrapped a small town in warmth and whispered promises of safety. In the park near the Harpers' modest two-story home, Lily Harper, 7 years old and brimming with energy, darted across the grass, her laughter ringing like tiny bells. Her braid bounced as she chased a butterfly, her sneakers kicking up dandelion fluff. Clara, her 15-year-old sister, lounged on a picnic blanket nearby, her nose buried in a dog-eared copy of The Outsiders. The park was their sanctuary, a place where the world felt simple, until it wasn't. "Lily, don't go too far," Clara called, glancing up from her book. Her voice was light, but there was a protective edge to it, honed from years of being the big sister. "I'm just catching butterflies," Lily shouted back, spinning in a circle, her yellow sundress flaring. "They're magic, Clara, like fairies." Clara smiled, shaking her head. "You and your fairies. Just stay where I can see you, okay?" Their mother, Ellen Harper, was at home, a 5-minute walk away, preparing dinner. She'd kissed Lily's forehead before they left, saying, "Have fun, but listen to Clara." It was a routine afternoon, the kind that should have ended with ice cream stains and tired giggles. But at 4:17 p.m., everything changed. Lily had wandered toward the park's edge, where a line of oak trees cast dappled shadows. Clara, engrossed in her book, didn't notice the man at first. He was leaning against a white pickup truck parked on the street, his posture casual, unthreatening. Thomas Reed, 38, wore a faded flannel shirt and a baseball cap pulled low, blending into the scenery like any local dad. In his hand was a toy, a small, white stuffed rabbit with floppy ears and a pink ribbon. He knelt as Lily approached, his smile warm but practiced. "Hey there, little lady," Reed said, his voice smooth as honey. "You like bunnies. This one's special. It hops if you press its paw. Wanna see?" Lily froze, her curiosity warring with the stranger danger lessons Clara had drilled into her. She clutched the hem of her dress, glancing back toward her sister. I don't know," she mumbled, her voice small. Reed's smile didn't waver. He held the rabbit closer, pressing its paw. The toy gave a tiny mechanical hop, and Lily's eyes widened. "See? It's magic," he said, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "I've got more toys in my truck. Just over there, you can pick one to keep." Lily took a hesitant step forward, her fingers twitching toward the rabbit. Across the park, Clara's head snapped up, a prickle of unease crawling up her spine. She dropped her book, her eyes locking onto the man. "Lily," she shouted, scrambling to her feet. "Get back here." Reed's head jerked toward Clara, his smile vanishing. For a split second, his eyes were cold, calculating, like a predator sizing up a threat. He grabbed Lily's wrist, his grip firm but not bruising. "Come on, it'll be quick," he urged, his voice tightening. "You want the bunny, don't you?" Lily's breath hitched, her body stiffening. She didn't scream, she couldn't. Her wide eyes darted to Clara, who was now sprinting across the grass, her sneakers pounding the earth. "Let her go," Clara yelled, her voice raw with panic. "I'm calling the cops." Reed hesitated, his grip loosening for a fraction of a second. That was all Lily needed. She yanked her arm free and bolted toward Clara, her small legs pumping. Clara caught her, pulling her into a fierce hug as Reed jumped into his truck. The engine roared, tires screeching as the vehicle peeled away, leaving a trail of exhaust and dread. "Lily, are you okay?" Clara gasped, kneeling to check her sister's face. Lily's cheeks were pale, her eyes glassy with shock. She nodded but didn't speak, her small hands trembling as she clung to Clara's shirt. "I'm so sorry," Clara whispered, tears welling. "I should have been watching closer." From a nearby bench, an elderly jogger, Mr. Grayson, had seen it all. He shuffled over, his voice gruff but kind. "I got part of the license plate, XJT. And that guy, I've seen his truck around before. You need to call the police." Clara nodded, fumbling for her phone. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaking as she dialed 911. "Lily, talk to me, please." "Say something," but Lily only buried her face in Clara's shoulder, her silence louder than any scream. By the time Ellen arrived, breathless and wild-eyed, the police were already cordoning off the park. Officer Kate Monroe, a seasoned FBI agent with sharp hazel eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, took charge. Her graying ponytail swayed as she knelt beside Lily, her voice gentle but firm. "Sweetheart, I'm Kate. Can you tell me what the man looked like? Anything you remember?" she asked. Lily's fingers tightened around Clara's hand, but no words came. Ellen, her face streaked with tears, pulled Lily close. "She's not talking," Ellen said, her voice breaking. "She hasn't said a word since I got here." Kate exchanged a look with her partner, Agent Ruiz, who was jotting notes. "Selective mutism," Ruiz murmured. "Trauma response. I've seen it before." Kate sighed, rubbing her temple. "Without a statement, we're working with scraps. White truck, partial plate, and a vague description. But it's something." She turned to Mr. Grayson. "You said you've seen that truck before?" The old man nodded. "Couple times, near the hardware store. Never thought much of it till now." As the police worked, Ellen carried Lily home, Clara trailing behind, her guilt a heavy weight. That night, Lily didn't touch her favorite mac and cheese. She sat on the couch, staring at nothing, flinching at every car horn outside. Clara tried reading her a bedtime story, The Velveteen Rabbit, her favorite, but Lily turned away, curling into a ball. "I messed up, Mom," Clara said later, her voice hollow as they sat at the kitchen table. "I was supposed to protect her." Ellen reached across, squeezing Clara's hand. "You saved her, Clara. You got there in time. But she's not herself." The next morning, Ellen called the child psychologist, Dr. Patel, who confirmed the diagnosis: selective mutism triggered by trauma. Lily's voice is locked inside her, Dr. Patel explained, her tone calm but grave. "She may speak again, but it'll take time. I recommend a therapy animal. Dogs, especially, can help children feel safe." Ellen hesitated, glancing at Clara, who sat in the corner, hugging her knees. "A dog?" Ellen asked. "You really think that'll work?" "It's worth a try," Dr. Patel said. "There's a program at the Animal Rehab Center. They have a dog, Max, who's worked wonders with kids like Lily." Clara looked up, her eyes brightening. "A dog might help, Mom. Lily loves animals. Remember how she used to beg for a puppy?" Ellen nodded, hope flickering in her chest. "Okay, let's do it." Neither of them could have known that Max would become more than a therapy dog. He'd be Lily's lifeline, her silent guardian, and the key to unmasking a monster. As the days passed, Lily's silence grew heavier, her once sparkling eyes dulled by fear. But in a quiet room at the rehab center, a golden retriever with a scarred past was waiting, ready to hear what Lily couldn't say. The Animal Rehabilitation Center smelled of antiseptic and fresh hay, a quiet sanctuary tucked away on the edge of town. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting golden patches on the tiled floor where Max, a golden retriever with a coat like burnished wheat, lay on an orthopedic bed. His deep brown eyes tracked every movement in the room with a calm intensity, the kind that spoke of a life spent reading danger and trust in equal measure. A jagged scar ran down his right flank, a stark reminder of the night that ended his career as a police K-9. 3 years ago, Max had lunged at an armed suspect during a drug bust, taking a knife meant for his handler. The blade cut deep, and though Max subdued the man, the injury left him with a limp and a forced retirement. Deemed unfit for service, he'd been slated for euthanasia until Dr. Anna Larson intervened. Anna, a veterinarian with a knack for seeing potential where others saw only brokenness, had fought to save Max. "He's got too much heart to give up on," she'd told the police chief, her voice fierce. She'd spent months rehabilitating him, training him as a therapy dog for trauma survivors. Now, as Ellen and Lily Harper stepped into the center, Anna knelt beside Max, her hand resting on his broad head. "This is him," she said softly, her eyes warm but assessing. "Max, meet your new friend." Lily stood half hidden behind Ellen, her small fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. Her eyes, usually so curious, were guarded, flicking nervously around the room. Clara, standing beside her mother, gave Lily a gentle nudge. "Go on, Lily," she whispered. "He looks nice." Ellen crouched to Lily's level, her voice trembling with hope. "Sweetheart, Dr. Anna says Max is a hero. He used to catch bad guys, just like in your comic books." "Want to say hi?" Lily didn't respond, her gaze fixed on the floor. But when Max let out a soft, inquisitive whine, her head lifted slightly. His ears were perked, his tail still, as if he knew not to overwhelm her. Anna smiled, reading the moment like a script. "Max is patient," she said. "He'll wait as long as you need. If you want to touch him, just hold out your hand. He'll come to you." Clara bit her lip, watching her sister. "Come on, Lily," she urged, her voice cracking. "You love dogs. Remember how you wanted to adopt every puppy at the pet store?" Lily's eyes darted to Max, lingering on his scar. It was ugly, raw, but somehow it made him less frightening, like he, too, had survived something terrible. Slowly, she took a step forward, then another, her sneakers scuffing the tiles. Her hand extended, trembling, palm up. Max didn't move until Anna gave a quiet command, "Go." With careful grace, Max rose and stepped toward Lily, his movements deliberate. He lowered his head, his warm breath brushing her fingers. Lily flinched but didn't pull away. Her fingertips grazed his fur, soft and sun-warmed, and something shifted in her face, a flicker of wonder, like a candle flaring in the dark. Ellen gasped, pressing a hand to her mouth. "Oh, Lily," she whispered, tears spilling over. Clara grinned, nudging her mom. "Told you she'd like him." Anna's voice was steady, encouraging. "That's it, Lily. Max likes you already. See how he's wagging his tail? That's his way of saying you're special." Lily's fingers curled into Max's fur, her grip tightening as if anchoring herself to him. She didn't speak, but her shoulders relaxed, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't look afraid. Max sat, pressing his body lightly against her legs, a silent promise that he was there to stay. Max was a police dog, Anna explained, glancing at Ellen. "He's trained to sense when someone's scared or in danger. That's why he's so good with kids like Lily. He listens in ways we can't." Ellen nodded, wiping her eyes. "How does it work? Will he help her talk again?" Anna hesitated, choosing her words. "He can't make her speak, but he can give her a safe place to try. Trauma locks things away, but trust can open the door. Max is her bridge." Clara knelt beside Lily, her voice soft. "What do you think, Lily? Is Max your new best friend?" Lily didn't answer, but she leaned into Max, her cheek brushing his fur. Clara exchanged a look with Ellen, a silent agreement that this was a start. Over the next few weeks, Max became Lily's shadow. At home, she'd curl up beside him on the living room rug, her small hands tracing his scar as if mapping a story only they understood. When nightmares jolted her awake, her gasp silent but desperate, Max would nudge her hand, his steady heartbeat calming her racing pulse. One afternoon, Clara found Lily in her bedroom, surrounded by crayons and paper. She was drawing, a girl with a braid and a golden dog standing together, facing a shadowy figure with a bunny in its hand. Clara's throat tightened. "That's you and Max, huh?" she said, sitting cross-legged beside her. "You're like superheroes." Lily's eyes flicked to Clara, and for a moment, it seemed she might speak. But she only pushed the drawing toward her sister, a gift of trust. Clara hugged her tightly. "We're gonna be okay, Lily. You, me, and Max. Promise." Ellen, watching from the doorway, felt a spark of hope. "Clara's right," she said, her voice thick. "Max's family now." At the rehab center, Anna noticed changes too. During a session, Lily watched Max fetch a ball, her eyes bright with fascination. As Max dropped the ball at her feet, she whispered, so softly it was almost lost, "Good boy." Anna froze, her heart leaping. Ellen, sitting nearby, clapped a hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Did she just?" Ellen stammered, looking at Anna. Anna nodded, her smile radiant. "She did. It's small, but it's a step. Max is reaching her." Clara, who'd been scrolling on her phone, jumped up, nearly knocking over a chair. "Lily, you talked. You're amazing." She hugged her sister, who didn't pull away but leaned into the embrace, Max nudging them both with a happy whine. Anna placed a hand on Ellen's arm. She trusts him, she said quietly. Sometimes, trust is the first key to finding your voice. Ellen squeezed Anna's hand, her voice barely above a whisper. Then we'll follow that trust, wherever it leads. Neither of them could have predicted where it would take them. Straight to a courtroom where Max's instincts would unravel a predator's lies. As Lily's bond with Max grew, so did her courage, a quiet strength building beneath her silence. Max, with his scarred body and unshakable loyalty, was more than a therapy dog. He was her partner, her protector, and soon, the spark that would light the path to justice. The courtroom buzzed with a restless energy, the air thick with anticipation as the trial of Thomas Reed resumed. Spectators filled the gallery, their whispers a low hum, while journalists scribbled furiously, sensing a story that could dominate headlines. At the center of it all sat Lily Harper, 7 years old, perched on the witness stand, her small frame dwarfed by the towering wooden chair. Max, her golden retriever, lay at her feet, his scarred flank rising and falling with steady breaths. His warm brown eyes scanned the room, lingering on Thomas Reed, who sat at the defense table with a practiced calm, his fingers laced casually on the polished wood. Judge Helen Carver's gavel struck, silencing the room. Her silver-streaked hair gleamed under the fluorescent lights as she surveyed the scene, her sharp gaze settling on Lily. "We'll proceed with the testimony of Lily Harper," she announced, her voice steady but laced with an unspoken empathy. "Ms. Nguyen, you may begin." Sarah Nguyen, the lead prosecutor, rose, smoothing her blazer. She approached Lily with a gentle smile, her tone warm but deliberate. "Hi, Lily," she said, crouching slightly to meet the girl's eyes. "You're doing so well. If you feel scared or need a break, just let me know, okay? You can nod or raise your hand." Lily's fingers tightened around Max's leash, her knuckles pale, but she gave a small nod, her braid bobbing. Ellen Harper, seated in the front row, clutched Claire's hand, her breath shallow. "She's so brave," Ellen whispered, her voice trembling. Clara nodded, her eyes fierce. "She's got this. Max won't let her down." Sarah straightened, her voice clear. "Lily, can you tell us if you recognize anyone in this room from the day in the park?" "The day with the bunny toy." Lily's gaze dropped to the table, her shoulders hunching. The room held its breath, the silence stretching until it felt brittle. Slowly, her eyes lifted, flickering toward Thomas Reed. Her hand trembled as she raised it, pointing directly at him, her fingers steady despite the quiver in her arm. Reed's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed, a subtle tightening of his jaw betraying his unease. Daniel Price, his attorney, shot to his feet. "Objection, Your Honor," he said, his voice sharp. "The witness has been shown images of my client prior to trial. This identification is tainted and unreliable." Judge Carver raised a hand, her tone firm. "Overruled. The jury will assess the credibility of the identification." "Ms. Nguyen, continue." Sarah nodded, her focus unwavering. "Thank you, Lily. Now, can you tell us if the man said anything to you that day? Maybe about the bunny toy?" Lily's lips parted, but no sound came. Her free hand made a small, almost imperceptible gesture, a subtle twist of her fingers, a signal she'd practiced with Dr. Anna Larson in therapy. Max's reaction was immediate. His ears snapped forward, his body tensing like a coiled spring. He rose to his feet, his nose twitching as he inhaled deeply, and a low, guttural growl rumbled from his chest. His eyes locked onto a small evidence bag on the prosecution's table, where the white stuffed rabbit toy sat, its pink ribbon glinting under the lights. The courtroom erupted in gasps. A spectator dropped a notebook, the thud echoing. Clara leaned forward, whispering to Ellen, "That's the bunny. Max knows it." Ellen's heart raced. "How does he? What's he sensing?" Sarah froze, her eyes darting to Max, then to the evidence bag. "Your Honor," she said, her voice urgent, "may I approach the evidence?" Max's reaction seems tied to the toy recovered from Mr. Reed's vehicle. Daniel Price stood again, his face reddening. "This is absurd. The dog is creating a circus, Your Honor. I move to have it removed immediately." "Sit down, Mr. Price," Carver snapped, her gavel poised. Her eyes narrowed as she studied Max, who had taken a step toward the evidence table, his growl deepening. "Ms. Nguyen, explain this behavior." Sarah hesitated, glancing at Kate Monroe, the FBI agent seated behind her. Kate gave a subtle nod, her expression grim. "Your Honor," Sarah said, "Max is a former police K-9 with advanced scent training. His reaction suggests he's detecting something significant, possibly a scent linked to the defendant or the crime scene." Price scoffed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "A dog's nose isn't evidence. This is speculation, not fact." Judge Carver's gaze shifted to Reed, who was no longer calm. His fingers, once steady, now gripped the table's edge, his knuckles white. "Mr. Reed," Carver said, her voice measured, "have you had any prior contact with this animal?" Reed's eyes flicked to Max, then away. "No," he said, his voice clipped, but a bead of sweat glistened on his temple. "Never seen it before," Clara whispered to Ellen. "He's lying. Look at him, he's scared of Max." Ellen nodded, her pulse pounding. "Something's wrong. Max knows him." Sarah seized the moment, her voice rising. "Your Honor, I request permission to have the toy examined further. If Max is reacting to a specific scent, it could be a breakthrough. We also need to consult with Agent Monroe about the vehicle records." Price's patience snapped. "This is a fishing expedition. They're stalling because their case is weak." "Enough." Carver's gavel cracked like a whip. She leaned forward, her eyes boring into Sarah. "Ms. Nguyen, you're treading on thin ice. But I've seen enough to know that dog's reaction isn't random. Court will recess for 30 minutes. I want answers, now." As the gallery buzzed with speculation, Kate Monroe leaned toward Sarah, her voice low. "That toy came from Reed's truck, but we didn't test it for trace evidence beyond fingerprints. If Max is picking up a scent, it could be from Reed, or something else he's touched. We need to check his properties, starting with that warehouse he leased." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. "Do it, and get Anna Larson on the phone. She knows Max's training. If he's reacting like this, there's a reason." Ellen rushed to Lily, who was still on the stand, her small hands buried in Max's fur. "Baby, you did so good," Ellen said, kissing her forehead. "Are you okay?" Lily didn't speak, but she pressed her face against Max, her breathing steadying. Clara knelt beside them, her voice fierce. "You're a rock star, Lily. And Max? He's like Superman with fur." Lily's lips twitched, almost a smile, and Clara grinned. "That's my girl." Outside the courtroom, Kate pulled Sarah aside, her hazel eyes blazing. "I've got a hunch," she said. "Reed's warehouse. It's been on our radar, but we didn't have enough for a warrant. Max's reaction changes everything. If that toy links to something in there, we might find more than just evidence." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Then move fast. We've got 30 minutes to turn this case around." As the recess ticked by, Judge Carver remained at her bench, her fingers drumming thoughtfully. She'd seen many trials, but never one where a dog's instinct shifted the tide. Max's growl, Lily's signal, the bunny toy, they were pieces of a puzzle, and she sensed the picture was about to become clear. For the first time, she felt a spark of certainty. Thomas Reed's mask was slipping, and Max was the one tearing it away. The late afternoon sun hung low, casting long shadows over the desolate warehouse on the outskirts of town. The air was heavy with the scent of rust and damp earth, the kind of place where secrets festered in silence. Kate Monroe, her boots crunching on the gravel, led a small team of FBI agents toward the sagging structure, its faded red paint peeling like old skin. Max, leashed but alert, padded beside her, his nose twitching, his scarred flank gleaming in the fading light. The golden retriever's reaction in the courtroom had lit a fire under the investigation, and Kate's instincts, honed by decades chasing predators, told her they were close to something big. "Stay sharp," Kate said, her voice low as she glanced at her team. "This place is listed under Reed's name, but he claimed it was just storage. If Max is reacting to that bunny toy, we're looking for a connection, maybe a scent, maybe more." Agent Ruiz, her partner, adjusted his vest, his eyes scanning the warehouse's boarded windows. "You think Reed's been using this as a base?" he asked, his tone skeptical. "It's a ghost town out here." Kate's jaw tightened. "Guys like Reed don't pick places like this for nothing. Max knows something we don't. Let's find out what." At the courtroom, Sarah Nguyen had stayed behind, poring over case files with Dr. Anna Larson, Max's trainer, who'd arrived to consult. "Max's scent training is elite," Anna explained, her voice steady. "He can pick up traces of human scent, chemicals, even fear pheromones. If he growled at that toy, it's because he recognized something tied to Reed, or a place Reed's been." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "You're saying the toy could lead us to a location?" Anna nodded. "Exactly. Max isn't just reacting to Reed, he's reacting to a story the toy's telling." Back at the warehouse, Max strained against his leash, his ears pricked as they approached the rusted metal door. Kate gave a nod and Ruiz pried it open, the hinges screaming in protest. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust that danced in the slivers of light piercing the cracked walls. The space was cluttered, old crates, tarps, a stack of empty paint cans, but Max's focus was razor sharp. He tugged Kate toward a corner, his nose low, his tail stiff. "He's got something," Kate said, her pulse quickening. "Let him lead." Max stopped at a pile of wooden pallets, his body tensing. He let out a sharp whine, hauling at the floor. Ruiz knelt, running his hand over the boards. "There's a seam here," he said, his voice taut. "It's not flush, feels like a trapdoor." Kate's eyes flashed. "Get it open, now." The team worked quickly, prying up the boards with a crowbar. Beneath was a steel hatch, locked with a heavy padlock. Max's whining grew urgent, his paws scratching at the metal. Kate radioed for bolt cutters, her voice clipped. "We're in, but we need backup. Send a medic, just in case." As the cutters snapped the lock, Kate lifted the hatch, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling into darkness. The air that wafted up was cold, damp, carrying a faint metallic tang. Max growled, low and steady, his hackles rising. Kate drew her flashlight, her gun ready. "Max, stay close," she said, descending first, the team following. The basement was a nightmare made real. The beam of Kate's flashlight swept over concrete walls, revealing a grim tableau. A small mattress in one corner, a bucket, and a pile of children's belongings. Worn sneakers, a frayed stuffed bear, a glittery hair clip. In the farthest corner, chained to a pipe, was a girl, no older than 9, her face pale, her clothes ragged. Her eyes, wide with terror, locked onto Kate. "Sophie?" Kate said, her voice soft but urgent, recognizing the girl from a missing persons file. "Sophie Sullivan, abducted 8 months ago, last seen near a playground 30 miles away." Sophie nodded, her voice a hoarse whisper. "Please, get me out." Max surged forward, his leash taut, and nuzzled Sophie's hand, whining softly. Kate rushed to her, working the lock on the chains with a key from the evidence kit. "You're safe now, sweetheart," Kate said, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. "We've got you." Ruiz radioed for the medic, his tone grim. "We've got a live victim. Female, approximately 9. Send AMS now." As Kate freed Sophie, wrapping her in a jacket, her flashlight caught something else, a small notebook tucked beneath the mattress. She flipped it open, her breath catching. Pages of meticulous notes, written in Reed's precise hand, detailed his targets. Names, ages, locations, even preferences for toys like the white bunny. One entry chilled her. "Girl with braid, parked, yellow dress." Hesitant but curious. "Next time, no sister." "That's Lily," Kate murmured, her stomach twisting. He was planning to come back for her. Max's nose nudged the notebook, his growl returning. Kate patted his head. "Good boy, you led us here." Back at the courthouse, Sarah's phone buzzed with Kate's update. Her eyes widened as she turned to Judge Carver, who'd called a private meeting in her chambers. "Your Honor," Sarah said, her voice urgent, "Agent Monroe found a hidden basement in Reed's warehouse. They rescued Sophie Sullivan, missing since last summer. There's also a notebook, Reed's handwriting, detailing his plans, including targeting Lily." Carver's face hardened, her fingers gripping the edge of her desk. "Is the child stable?" Sarah nodded. Ems is with her. She's dehydrated but coherent. She can testify. Carver exhaled, her voice low. And the dog? How did he know? Max's scent training, Sarah said. He linked the bunny toy to the basement. We're testing it for trace evidence now, but the notebook alone ties Reed to multiple abductions. Carver leaned back, her mind racing. This changes everything. I want a full report by morning. We reconvene at 9 a.m. At the hospital, Sophie clung to a nurse, her voice trembling as she spoke to Kate. He gave me a bunny toy, she said, tears streaming. Said it would keep me company. I hated it, but he wouldn't take it back. Kate's jaw clenched. You're so strong, Sophie. You're safe now, and he's never touching you again. Max, sitting nearby, rested his head on Sophie's knee, his presence a quiet comfort. Sophie's fingers brushed his fur, and she whispered, "Thank you." As night fell, Kate sent the notebook to forensics, her mind on Lily. Max's instincts had cracked the case wide open, but the fight wasn't over. Reed's secrets were spilling out, and tomorrow they'd face him with the truth he couldn't deny. For now, Sophie was safe, and Max, the scarred hero, had proven that some bonds, between a dog and a child, could break even the darkest chains. The courtroom was a pressure cooker, the air crackling with tension as the trial's final day dawned. The gallery overflowed, spectators packed shoulder to shoulder, their whispers a restless tide. News of Sophie Sullivan's rescue had spread like wildfire, and journalists jostled for seats, pens poised to capture every word. At the center of the storm sat Lily Harper, 7 years old, clutching Max's leash, her small hand steady despite the weight of the moment. Max, the golden retriever with a scarred flank, lay alert at her feet, his warm brown eyes locked on Thomas Reed, who now sat at the defense table with a veneer of composure that seemed to fray with every passing second. Judge Helen Carver's gavel struck, silencing the room. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back tightly, her expression a mask of resolve. "We will proceed with the prosecution's final presentation," she said, her voice cutting through the hush. "Ms. Nguyen, you have the floor." Sarah Nguyen rose, her blazer crisp, her gaze unwavering. She held a folder containing the forensic report and Reed's chilling notebook, its pages a roadmap of his crimes. "Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, her voice clear and commanding. "Yesterday's discovery changes this case irrevocably. In a hidden basement owned by Thomas Reed, we found Sophie Sullivan, a 9-year-old girl missing for 8 months. We also recovered a notebook in Reed's handwriting, detailing his plans to target children, including Lily Harper." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Ellen Harper, seated with Clara, gripped her daughter's hand, her face pale but resolute. Clara leaned close, whispering, "He's done, Mom. They've got him." Sarah continued, her tone sharp as steel. "Forensic analysis confirms Reed's DNA on the chains holding Sophie, and tire tracks from his truck match the warehouse. But most damning is Sophie herself, who is prepared to testify." She turned to Reed, her eyes boring into him. "Mr. Reed, how do you explain a child locked in your basement, surrounded by evidence of your obsession?" Reed's calm shattered, his hands, once folded neatly, now clenched into fists, his knuckles white. I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered, his voice thin, unconvincing. His attorney, Daniel Price, leaned in, whispering urgently, but Reed's eyes darted to Max, who had lifted his head, hackles rising. Price stood, his voice strained. "Your Honor, this is a rush to judgment. The notebook is circumstantial, and my client has no direct link to." "Sit down, Mr. Price," Carver interrupted, her tone icy. "I've heard enough deflections. Ms. Nguyen, call your witness." Sarah nodded, her voice softening. "The prosecution calls Sophie Sullivan." The courtroom doors opened, and Sophie, frail but defiant, walked in, escorted by a social worker. Her eyes, though shadowed, held a quiet strength. She took the stand, her small hands gripping the chair's arms. Max whined softly, his tail thumping once, as if recognizing a fellow survivor. Sarah approached gently. "Hi, Sophie. You're so brave for being here. Can you tell us who took you?" Sophie's gaze locked onto Reed, unflinching. "Him," she said, her voice hoarse but clear, pointing at Reed. "He gave me a bunny toy, said it was a gift. Then he locked me in that room." Gasps echoed through the room. Reed's face drained of color, his breath hitching. Price whispered furiously, but Reed ignored him, his eyes wild. "She's lying," he snapped, his voice cracking. "I never." Max stood, a deep growl rumbling from his chest, his body angled toward Reed. The sound was primal, a warning that cut through the chaos. Reed flinched visibly, his chair scraping back. "Get that dog away from me," he shouted, his voice raw with panic. Clara, in the gallery, clutched Ellen's arm. "Look at him, Mom. He's falling apart." Ellen nodded, tears streaming. Max sees right through him. Judge Carver's gavel cracked. "Order. Mr. Reed, control yourself." Her eyes narrowed, her voice low. "Do you have something to say, or shall we continue?" Reed's chest heaved, his eyes darting between Max, Sophie, and Lily. Max took a slow, deliberate step forward, his growl unwavering, and something in Reed snapped. He turned to Price, his voice a desperate hiss. "End this. I can't. That dog knows. It's over." Price's face paled. "Thomas, don't. I want to change my plea." Reed blurted, his words tumbling out. "I did it. All of it. Just make it stop." The courtroom exploded in chaos, gasps, shouts, the clatter of dropped pens. Carver's gavel pounded, her voice thunderous. "Silence. Mr. Reed, are you stating you wish to plead guilty?" Reed slumped, his head bowing. "Yes," he whispered, the word barely audible but heavy as stone. Sarah exchanged a stunned look with Kate Monroe, who stood at the back, her arms crossed, a grim satisfaction in her eyes. "He's done," Kate mouthed. Carver leaned forward, her voice grave. "Let the record show that Thomas Reed has entered a guilty plea to all charges, including kidnapping and attempted kidnapping. Sentencing will be scheduled pending a full report." She paused, her gaze softening as it landed on Lily and Sophie. "This court is adjourned." As the gallery erupted, Ellen rushed to Lily, lifting her from the stand into a fierce hug. "You did it, baby," she sobbed, kissing her forehead. "You and Max." Clara joined them, wrapping her arms around both. "You're a superhero, Lily," she said, her voice thick. "And Max? He's the best sidekick ever." Lily clung to Max's fur, her face buried in his warmth. Then, in a voice so soft it was almost lost, she whispered, "Max saved us." It was the first sentence she'd spoken in months, a fragile thread of sound that carried the weight of her healing. Ellen gasped, tears streaming. "Oh, Lily, you're back." Clara grinned, ruffling Lily's braid. "Told you she'd talk when she was ready." Sophie, still on the stand, watched the scene, her own eyes glistening. Kate approached, kneeling beside her. "You were incredible, Sophie," she said. "You helped stop him." Sophie nodded, her fingers brushing Max's head as he nudged her hand. "He's a good dog," she whispered. Days later, Reed was sentenced to life without parole, his crimes laid bare for the world. The town rallied around Lily and Sophie, their stories a testament to resilience. But the true heart of the victory lay in a quiet moment in the Harpers' backyard, where Lily and Max played under the spring sun. Clara sat on the porch, sketching them, her pencil capturing Lily's laughter, bright, unbroken, alive. "Race you to the tree, Max," Lily called, her voice stronger now, her braid flying as she ran. Max bounded after her, his tail a golden blur, his bark a song of triumph. Ellen watched from the kitchen window, a smile breaking through her tears. Some bonds, she knew, could withstand any darkness, between a girl and her dog, a sister and her family, a community and its heroes. As Lily's laughter echoed, it was clear, the shadows had lost, and light had found its way home. The story of Lily Harper and Max, her loyal golden retriever, is more than a courtroom drama. It's a profound lesson in resilience, trust, and the power of unspoken bonds. Lily, a 7-year-old silenced by trauma, found her voice through Max, a scarred former police dog who sensed truths humans overlooked. Their journey teaches us that courage often comes from the smallest hearts, and healing begins with trust. Whether in a furry companion, a supportive family like Clara and Ellen, or a community that fights for justice. Max's instincts, unclouded by doubt, remind us to listen to those quiet, primal signals that guide us when logic alone isn't enough. The story also underscores the importance of second chances. Max, once deemed expendable, became a hero, proving that worth isn't defined by past wounds. For every child like Lily or Sophie, trapped in fear, there's hope and connection in standing firm against darkness. This tale challenges us to nurture trust, champion the vulnerable, and believe in the strength of those society might overlook. Did this story move you? Like, share, and subscribe to our channel to catch more inspiring tales of grit and heart. Hit the bell to never miss a story that could change how you see the world. Join us for the next unforgettable journey.